Good morning. Oh, good morning. Good afternoon, America, or the three people that are choosing to listen to this podcast this week. I think it's safe to say that probably none of our family will be, but hopefully maybe a couple of our friends. I'm going to take the time to start off here. This is The Pivot. The Pivot is a daily fantasy show designed around daily fantasy where we, me and my good buddy, the Juice, Julio Cuadra.
What's up?
Are going to, and our great producer over here, who we like to refer to as Master J, Jared.
What's going on?
Are going to try to see if we can help you set some fantasy lineups. We're going to go start off with a few disclaimers. None of the three of us are experts. Probably none of the three of us are, I'd say, have the resumes designed to be doing our own show, but we're all three very passionate. And my man here, the Juice, over the years has produced some really good lineups in the low stakes tournaments, and I got impressed and decided that I would fund a podcast so that I could, with my good buddy and friend producer, do a show that we will hopefully entertain you all with and give you some good information. If you're looking for, lots of statistics or algorithms or optimal lineup designs, you're at the wrong show. We will be talking about information that we have obviously listened to other podcasts and discussed, or we have resources that we'll be sharing. However, we are more just here to kind of share what we have accumulated as knowledge over the week and give you kind of some tips. We'll be doing that by building a DK lineup for me. I am in a league with a bunch of sharks, whatever you want to call them. They, last year, I think I finished almost dead last, if not bottom 10%. I have climbed up to the top half of the league right now. I was in the top 5 for the first 2 weeks.
For the record, I did not help last year.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't want to be blamed for last year's results.
The Juice has nothing to do with last year's results. I have to do with last year's results. We also didn't have the information that Jared will be providing each week here to help us. Jared also plays fantasy. He also probably does more lineups a week than I do. He's got good friends and family that play, have had some success. And like I said, we're all three definitely passionate about this. Following the show schedule here a little bit, the background of Juice and I, we've probably known each other since we were in 6th grade. The first time I met Juice, he lit my basketball team up for about 30 points in the B League.
Yeah.
To this day,
Bird Explorers.
we are wondering how the Juice was playing in the B League. He was better than anybody on the A League team. That's me talking, not him. Anyway, Juice did. He lit us up beside us, despite us going a 1-3-1 on him at the end of the game.
I thought it was a boxing one.
It was a 1-3-1.
It was a 1-3-1.
But it was designed to stop you.
It didn't matter.
Yes.
It didn't really matter.
Anyway, that's a true story. That is not made up. We've known each other since 6th grade basketball. We went to high school with one another. The Juice was our biggest high school football fan. He road tripped with us through many wins at the mighty Cassia Hall here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We are being brought to you from Crybaby Hill in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in my guest bedroom next to a bed where my Yorkie's sleeping. I've got Juice to my left and Jared back me, and we are rigged up here to make a first podcast. Anyway, let's get started here. Our goals for each week are going to be to get a good lineup in DK. I think it's probably going to be a focus. The reason is because my league that I play in full of sharps is Ray's League, as we call it, is a DK league. And so we will, Julio is, and I think Jared both play a lot of FanDuel. I don't play as much FanDuel. But
I don't play any FanDuel. It's DK all the way.
So we're going to be more of a DK show, whether Julio likes it or not.
Yeah, we'll base our pricing and plays mainly on DK, but I'll throw in a couple of FanDuel nuggets. I do like FanDuel. I think DK is probably, of the two sites, the better of the two by far.
Absolutely.
Just from an interface standpoint and just
it's like Apple versus IBM.
Yeah, but I will say this. I think over the years, some of my biggest scores have been on FanDuel. I think it's less competitive over there. What I do like about FanDuel is there's a lot of single entry tournaments, which is primarily what I like to play.
Which I'm glad you mentioned. A lot of the shows that you'll be listening to are designed for people who are putting in 150 lineups and they're trying to get you lineup share. We are going to be focused mainly on doing single lineups. Those are what I think all three of us prefer, single entry lineups.
Yeah.
I try to play one lineup. I end up playing about 4 or 5 variations of that one lineup in different contests, but I generally am focusing on trying to build one lineup each week, and that's because I want to win Ray's league. The league I'm in, you get paid if you win the week. If you win the week, you get your money back automatically, and each week you win, you go from there. And at the end, first, second, third, cumulatively, also get paid. So it has a little bit of cash game to it. It has a little bit of big tournament feel. So it's a good league, and it's got a bunch of good players, and there'll be guests coming up. Ray is going to be our first guest next week, hopefully, if we can get the technology figured out on how to do this. Jackson has joined us on the table and is now knocking over the mics. He is a 9-pound Yorkie that is 12 years old and pretty much thinks life centers around him. Anyway, moving on again. We're going to do some segments each week. Not every segment every week, but we're going to do the weekly Dolphin from SeaWorld segment. That's based on a joke that I have that a Dolphin at SeaWorld can pick NFL games for us. We'll give you some bets on this show. Again, for your own purposes, understand we're not beating bookies out of their money. We just enjoy trying to make the right picks. We'll do each week we'll do what we call hindsight 2020, where we just kind of discuss what were our good pivots, what were not good pivots, where should we have played chalk, where should we not play chalk. We'll talk probably about how Julio did great and Matt did bad. Hopefully Jared is also doing great.
I'm going to shoot for the middle every week.
Yeah, Jared's going to get second amongst us every week. Then we'll also do what we call buying the bookie a new house. That's also a betting segment. We'll talk more college football in that segment, or basically open up to any bet that we like, over, unders, team totals, whatever. Anyway, similar to the Dolphin segment, but little variation on it. So for this week's show, we were planning on having Ray Henson. For you that know Ray Henson, hopefully probably the 3 people listening to this show do know Ray Henson. He is a professional poker player from Houston, Texas. Probably the nicest guy in poker, or one of them. He's had a lot of success, and he also is very good at fantasy, both season-long and daily. Ray plays in some pretty interesting season-long league that I'll let him tell you about next week. But it's about the coolest season-long league I've heard of. But that's next week. This week, we're going to start off here. Before we carry on, I want to introduce Jared again. Jared, I met on a...
So we were, I was an
I'll
Uber
let Jared
driver.
tell us.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Because I actually thought about this on the way here. I was an Uber driver back in, I don't know how long it's been now, 2018 maybe is the first year that we met, and we procrastinated this show for successfully 2 years. But now it's happening. Anyways, how we started talking about football was he was sitting in my driver's seat, and I glanced down at his phone, and I noticed that he was building a DraftKings lineup.
This was pre-COVID,
This
right?
is pre-COVID,
because you're not allowed to sit in the front seat.
That's right, pre-COVID.
Got to make that disclaimer. Sorry, Jared.
And I asked him about it, and then we started talking the whole Uber ride about fantasy football and what we liked, what we didn't like. And by the end of the trip, we both showed interest in starting a podcast.
Well, I knew I had the talent, the juice in my pocket, and I knew that his talents were being wasted. And we literally the day before had discussed the idea of doing a podcast, but Julio and I have no idea what we're doing in a podcast world. I'm sitting here in a sweater, shirt, and tie, and khakis because I was at court all morning. Julio's dressed like he's going to a 5 o'clock dinner that's definitely going to include drinks. I mean, we're not, again, the usual guys who would be doing this, but we love it, so we're doing it. And I'm sponsoring the show, so hey, we're going to do it. And if somebody else in the future wants to sponsor it, great. But we will give shout-outs to local restaurants and people that we feel that have done the show right or are listening to the show. Anyway. This is going to be a different show because it's the first show and we are introducing ourselves for the first time. Next week, we'll just jump right into it and get into it more. But we do this is going to be a show where we talk about life and different things along with getting you a fantasy lineup. And there's just a lot of topics that we enjoy talking about that will get talked about. Okay, so let's start off by talking about how our seasons have gone so far. We're on week 4 of the NFL. We had no preseason. We had pandemic information, which means we had very little. We're all trying to get as much information as we can. There's sickness and all kinds of stuff we're dealing with. It's a tough year. I think we all 3 came out of the gate pretty good. Is that correct, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in the league that I'm going to refer to that we're going to be building lineups, I think I got a top 5 lineup. I think I was 5th, actually, maybe 6th. Yeah, we came out. What were some of your hot plays week 1 that we want to brag about? Or
let me tell you guys kind of what I did. So I played a lot of preseason, like I played a lot of basketball because that's kind of my sport that I really, when we get into basketball season,
we will be doing basketball podcasts.
We'll go nuts on that. But
we're going to have to get Julio a computer at home so we can do them every night.
There were a lot of tournaments. I'll just talk FanDuel that were satellites basically that gave away a bunch of tickets. Essentially, for week 1, they were, if you were wanting to play the $4 entries, you'd bet $2 and you'd almost automatically get a ticket if you put a lineup in. And so I loaded up, got my bankroll up to about, for me, it's a lot, but $500. So week 1.
Told you guys, high stakes here.
Yeah, week 1, I basically doubled that on my entries, and that's my money for the season. It's about $1,000. So that's kind of gives you a baseline about like where I like to gamble. I don't like to spend a lot. Usually my lineups are about 10 single entries, 10 to 20 single entries a week, and then I'll throw that in some smaller stakes like 20 max entry type tournaments. That's how I play. That's what I do. But week 1 was pretty good. Week 2, I think, was the week of just multiple injuries. I think I didn't die, but I didn't do very well. Week 3, I had a pretty good week last week.
I died.
I played a lot of the Cowboys in Seattle game. We were talking pre-show. I wish I'd played a lot more. What I've noticed so far is that ownership, and this is just, I think, over the years.
Well, let's specify what were some of your week 3 plays that maybe were not chalk, maybe some where you pivoted from other places.
Yeah, so week 3, if you all remember, week 2, Derrick Henry was mega chalk. I think it was like 35% owned on DK sites.
That was only 2 weeks
on
ago.
DK contest. And he was playing, if I remember, I forget who he was playing, but
good work. That's why you're the expert.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty tasty matchup.
It was Jacksonville, by the way.
No, I think it was week 1.
Yeah, Jacksonville week 2. Yeah.
Okay.
Was it week 2? Okay,
that's why we call him the best in the industry right here, guys.
So it was Jacksonville, but I think what we've come to find out, though, in this small sample, is Jacksonville's not bad against the run. So it wasn't really as good of a matchup as in hindsight as we would have liked. But
do you think the pandemic's affecting some of this information? I mean, we see a 1-game sample, 2-game sample. Everybody assumes Jackson's defense is terrible. They shove Henry in there, and what did he have? 8 points that week?
Yeah, and I think you mentioned
it was his worst week.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely played him that week.
I did too.
You mentioned also, I think, which was pretty sharp, is that there's no preseason this year. So we don't really see like what sort of offense the teams are running.
We don't really know who the backups are.
We don't really know how the rookies are going to be integrated into the offenses and defenses. So it's really like we've had to kind of learn on the fly. And that's why I'm really excited about this week. I think week 2, there was 2 games with lines over 50. This week, there's, I think, 7.
And just so you guys understand, we're not going to go. We don't have time, unfortunately, because we like to talk about other things too. We're not going to go game by game and give you our best plays of each game. We're going to literally just build a lineup here soon and discuss the plays we like that fit with the other plays we like. Because a lot of these shows that give you their favorite plays and they're the most expensive players on the list, and you go and try to fit them in your lineup and you have no idea who you should be playing in the $4,000 level or the $3,500 even, or what defense can we sneak in to get a few points Anyway,
but real quick, back to Derrick Henry. So last week I played him simply because I think he was playing against Minnesota, who we've seen has not really had a good defense.
Small sample, but yet terrible.
Yeah. So I said, to myself, I think he's in just as good of a spot as he was week 2. At a third of the ownership, he was 10% owned versus 35% owned, cheaper. So I was like, I'm going right back to Henry. And what did he do? He had over 100 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns, basically a ceiling game for Henry. And he's someone that I typically don't like to play a lot on DK.
Because he's chalk all the time.
Because he's chalk. And also,
I would say about since week, what was it, 2018, where he killed it at the end of the season. He's been chalk any good matchup he's had. Which is weird, right? Can we talk about this real quick? Because Henry is not your traditional pass-catching running back. So it's a little bit for the industry to have him as chalk, and all these people that I know that are really good players are playing him. It's kind of off what would be traditional play in the running back spot. Would you agree with that? Or?
100%. And that's where I was going to go is that, like, that's why I don't play Henry a lot on DKs, because if he doesn't score a rushing touchdown, he's pretty much not going to get to value because of the PPR, points per reception, that DK gives you. He's usually, in my opinion, on FanDuel typically a much better play because it's not as focused on points per reception and yardage bonuses. So if he gets 1 or 2 touchdowns, he's gonna be a good play for you on FanDuel. Whereas on DK, I like a guy like Alvin Kamara typically because he's going to get receptions, he's going to get yards, he can bust a play anytime. So it's not so methodical. He gets big chunk plays and he gets receptions. So he's typically a guy I like to play. And we'll talk about him this week, I imagine, because he's probably one of the better plays. But that's typically a guy I like to play.
Who are you saying is playing with Kamara this
Kamara.
week?
I like him. And we were talking earlier.
Especially for PPR,
Yeah. And on DK, he's almost always a great play.
So we're going to be talking DK. So
yeah.
Is Kamara a lock and load if Thomas is out?
I would almost think he's a lock and load even if Thomas is in.
So that's kind of off industry point there, is that I'm hearing a lot, through the podcast and the other experts saying that if Thomas is in there, then you need to reconsider. If he's out, then it's a lock and load. You think playing even if Thomas is there.
So here's my little, again, it's a small sample, but early observation about the Saints is that Drew Brees, for whatever reason, is not throwing the ball down the field as much.
Right.
So I kind of like Kamara because I think he's getting those short screen passes, even these intermediate routes, a lot more. I mean, I think Brees is looking at him more because I think he's kind of dusty, Brees. I don't think he can get the ball down the field as easily as he could. He's never really been a down the field guy, but this year more so than any, I think is like Brady. I mean, I think his arm's just not what it used to be. So I don't know if Thomas is, if you've got Thomas in season long, I don't know if he's going to be as good of a play maybe as he's been in years past. We'll see. I mean,
especially
he hasn't really played.
A high ankle sprain isn't an injury that just goes away. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something that it's whether you can tolerate the pain to play through it, and then whether it swells and doesn't swell. It's a tough football injury.
I mean, he's playing Detroit, and I think Detroit's given up a lot of points of receivers or running backs anyway. So I just think he's a good play.
So real quick before we jump into this week's lineup, I got a text from you right before kickoff last week that said I'm firing Isabella. We'd gone to lunch that week. We'd had a few phone calls. I'd built some lineups with you. I had Hopkins in every lineup, who served me well.
Yeah,
but
Hopkins has been great.
An amazing pivot from Hopkins was Isabella. Saved you a ton of money. Gave you options to play other players that I didn't have the option of playing. Where'd we get that pivot?
I think it was basically because Christian Kirk was ruled out. And again, father time with Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald's not the same receiver as he's been in years past. So Isabella, like last year, he had some electric plays. I kind of figured they were going to stretch the field a little bit. Interestingly enough, both his touchdowns were pretty short yardage touchdowns.
They were literally running plays designed for a pick for him to score.
Yeah, he seems like he's kind of that receiver that they're targeting in the red zone.
And when I say running plays, I mean they're short passes where there's a player's picking. It's just kind of like a toss that it's almost impossible for being complete because there's not going to be any defender. Before we move past Isabella, do you think that's a one-off, or I mean, we'll talk this week. Is Isabella somebody that?
No, probably not. I mean, I think
branching over to season long real quick is Isabella somebody if he's on the waiver wire that you're jumping on?
I think season long and for sure dynasty leagues. Okay. I mean, that's someone I would be looking at because
he runs like a 4.2, right?
Yeah, he's just a playmaker is what he is, and we're OU guys, right? So I mean. We love Kyler Murray.
Bad week to be Brian.
Yeah.
Let's start.
Yeah, let's not talk about last week. But
it's a bad week to stop sniffing glue here.
Let's move on from that. But we love Kyler Murray, and I mean, I think like there's the good thing
I'll
is
go out to tell you that Kyler Murray is top 3 favorite football player of all time.
He's awesome.
Got to see him play live at OU in several games.
He's electric, man.
So I play a dynasty league where I drafted Kyler Murray. I think it was last year. Last year was his first year, right?
Yeah,
Murray?
the second year, yeah.
So 4 or 5 weeks into the season, I end up trading him for Devontae Freeman, Terrell Williams, and I think it was Tom Brady.
How's that taste?
And it feels really bad.
Terrell
at,
who?
at this Terrell Williams. He's on IR for the rest of the year. So that's the situation I'm in.
Just to give you a little backup, I was heavy Trail Williams last year in
So
the
was
season
I.
longs. Very heavy.
So was I.
So was the guy that traded you for him.
This year it's Devontae Parker, so we need Devontae Parker to get back there practicing full steam. Okay, well, let's chug forward here. Any other last week pivots that you kind of were off the chalk that we want to discuss?
No, I mean, I think last week, I think the interesting thing was
It's not going to help people with talking too much
No,
about last
I mean,
week, but I enjoy.
Real quick, I mean, I think one of my favorite plays last week. He didn't kill me. He didn't blow up, but just kind of give you how I think is. I was really big on Singletary
Yes.
for Buffalo, and it was simply just because so far this season it's been sort of a timeshare at running back, and both the other backs, Cam Akers and Moss, they were injured. So I was like, he's going to get all the workload he can handle.
For our potential newbies, injuries in fantasy open up value
Right.
because all these algorithms that run projections and end up with the cost of each player don't factor that in.
Sure.
These come out as soon as the Sunday main slate ends, the new projections are out and available for people to start drafting.
Right.
There's been many of those this week or in the last couple of weeks. In fact, we'll be discussing them as we go through our lineup. So we'll do that. We're going to jump into going through the lineup. I've already locked and loaded Kamara into the lineup. You feel that's even with no? I will warn people that my lineup is definitely game to change between now and Sunday as information comes out, or as I sit bored at work looking for something to do. But do we think Kamara is what we're building our lineup?
I think so. Yeah.
I think he's a solid. And again, remember we're more single entry guys, so we're not trying to pivot from all the bad or the good plays. I would be very comfortable throwing Kamara in a lineup,
especially because Detroit's run defense not the best, and as well as their pass defense is not the best. So Kamara already doesn't matter. He's kind of matchup proof. And he's in a really good situation this week.
Hey, matchup proof with a really good matchup. I'm a big believer, and this is just years of playing fantasy, that really fast players who are electric can cut well when they get a chance to play inside. For some reason, the carpet seems to
he's in a dome.
lead to bigger numbers.
100%.
It seems that the carpet leads to people the dump offs. I can't have any logical explanation.
There's just less variables that come into play.
Yeah, the inside carpet decides they run more screens. Blah blah blah. Okay, so we've got Kamara in the lineup at 8,000. When I build my lineups, I generally like to pick 3 running backs. But some weeks I also like to decide who my quarterback wide receiver combo is. I don't generally play one-offs at quarterback. What I mean by guys who I'm not pairing with a receiver. I'm not opposed to doing that. Is that something we would consider this week, or do we think we're going quarterback wide receiver combo for this lineup?
I mean, I don't know. You guys can.
I think a quarterback wide receiver combo is a.
Well, let's talk like this. If we were going to start a quarterback and not start a wide receiver combo with him, what quarterbacks would we consider doing just starting without a wide receiver?
Okay, so I think with Kamara, the way I'll probably be running him is more of a one-off.
Right.
Because I like to play like a quarterback with at least one receiver, and then I usually like to run it back with a player from the opposing team.
What about stacking a quarterback with a pass-catching running back? That seems to be a common thing I'm seeing in some of the GPP lineups.
Yeah,
that
I would say that would be a good deal. However, I probably wouldn't play a wide receiver with a quarterback and a running back.
Even when we have matchups this week with such high scoring, would you?
I heard a stat. It was last week on another podcast that I think in the last 6 years, the quarterback, running back, receiver combo has won 5 times, in the Millie Maker in the last 6 years.
So starting 3.
So it almost never works out.
So what about the quarterback double wide receiver stack?
They didn't talk about that. They talked specifically about quarterback, running back, receiver.
I've heard a rumor.
Yeah,
stat
well, double stacks is kind of
Jared, you might have spoken on this, that every Millie Maker winner so far has included a double stack from.
A lot of them have.
I would imagine last week it did with Seattle.
Right.
I mean, if you had Lockett and Metcalf, and then with Russell.
Well, I interrupted you talking about how you like to make lineups. I heard you say when you start a quarterback wide receiver combo, you run it back with a player on another team. Why is that? I obviously listen to a lot of podcasts. I've played fantasy daily for about 3 years. I know that's a trend you stack. Is it because you're betting on the high scoring game?
Yeah, exactly. Because what you're betting on. I mean, let's say it's a 55-point line, right? The odds of a team winning 55-0 are pretty minuscule in the NFL. So you would imagine that if it's 55, it's going to be, I don't know, like 31 to 24 or something like that, right? So you're thinking the logic behind that is that, let's say you're playing the Cowboys and they're playing Seattle. There's points that are going to be going back and forth. So you want to get as much action from that one game as you possibly can.
If you're playing single entries, it's doubly important that you're getting in on the high scoring action, because you're playing against guys who are setting one lineup who are probably generally going to be trying to favor the higher scoring game.
Now, what I
you
will
mentioned, let me interrupt you real quick, that there's 5 games over 50 this week, right?
There's 7.
7 games over 50
High
this week.
scoring week.
Yeah.
So as I noticed,
last week there were 2.
As I noticed, I was building my lineup, looking at what lineups we would discuss, quarterback, wide receiver combos. There's a lot of them, right?
There's a lot.
There's a lot of routes we can go this week. We could go cheap, right, with Fitzgerald. I think Master J is all over Fitzgerald.
Yeah, he likes Fitzmagic.
So I want to chime in here real quick. So my favorite quarterback wide receiver pair, even maybe a quarterback running back pair that I love this week, is Fitzpatrick and maybe Devontae Parker, or even Fitzpatrick and Gaskins, because so
a lot of people who aren't big time players, Gaskins is going to be a new name.
Right.
I believe Gaskins was a guy that originally was recruited by Oklahoma State and then ended up at Washington. Is that correct?
I think that's right.
I'm literally doing that from the top of my head.
So this is why I kind of love Gaskins this week. Gaskins, there's a high chance that Miami is going to be playing from behind, because every single week Seattle, the score totals on both teams is close to 30 per team. And Gaskins, even if they are running behind, he still gets around 4 to 5 targets, even 7 one week, every week. So Fitzgerald, even if the game is highly not in Miami's favor, Gaskins will probably still be involved. And it'll be relatively contrarian, because people are going to be thinking...
That was going to be my question. Are we thinking that... I mean, Gaskins would be low. If you paired Gaskins Fitzgerald, I guarantee low ownership.
Low ownership for Gaskins for sure, because no one's going to think that he's going to have a huge game, because I think Miami is going to be running way behind.
You mentioned the Fitzgerald Parker, and as we try to decide what quarterback wide receiver combo we're going to use for my lineup, you're going to have to sell me, you two, on which one I'm going to use. So, do we think Fitzgerald Parker's highly owned, low owned? What do we think?
Probably highly owned.
Because
Fitzgerald Parker? Really?
Fitzgerald Parker.
I think so, because it's Seattle, and Seattle doesn't have a defense really. I mean they do, but they don't
and
produce
because of the
anything.
price points on both players. Is that
I will
also
tell you. I'll tell you just early week ownership projections. And again, this kind of brings up a good point. My philosophy at quarterback is play whoever you want, because typically they are not highly owned.
I was going to bring that up.
So,
that's something you've taught
if
me
you
over the
like
last couple of years.
Fitzpatrick, I mean, don't worry about ownership. Like,
especially in my league where there's only 45 players, right? I mean, most we're probably going to get a 25% share in one quarterback, and that's only if that's the quarterback that everybody has to play. Like Kyler Murray may have been 25% owned 1 week this year.
There's a site I like to go to, and right now they've got Fitzpatrick at 4.9% ownership. So, again, fairly low owned, but the highest rated quarterback in terms of projection is Russell Wilson at 12%. So that kind of goes back to the point that you need to play whoever you want to play. Right. Don't worry about ownership at quarterback.
So who does the Juice want to play? I've got my guy Jared wanting me to play Devontae Parker. And
I like
you want me to play Devontae Parker? And,
I love Devontae Parker. There is a chance that Russell Wilson will still score more points than Fitzpatrick.
Which doesn't matter as long as the price point is
the
relative.
value.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
I don't think he's... Just from a projection standpoint, there's not a standard deviation from one or the other. Okay. But I'm kind of high also.
So for the purpose of this podcast and building a lineup, who is Jam Master J selling me on? Is he selling me on Gaskins Fitzgerald combo or Parker Fitzgerald combo?
So from a confidence standpoint, I would say Fitzgerald and Parker. From a contrarian standpoint, I think Fitzpatrick and Gaskins.
Okay. And I've heard that Parker practiced on a Wednesday for the first time all year, correct?
Right. Yeah. Okay. He had a good week of practice this week.
I'm as a former football player, I didn't spend much time in the training room, but the guys that were in the training room were normally in there getting their hamstrings worked on. I would say knees and hamstrings in football followed by ankles third, where people were out for the weeks. Parker last year started off banged up, and by the end of the year he was top 5.
I think it was top 15 is what I remember. It might have been.
I think
top
he
5.
ended up top 15 for the year, but it was top 5.
Oh, in the last 4 weeks,
right?
Yeah,
he
top
blew
5
up at the end of the year. Yeah, for sure.
So so he's promoting Fitzgerald Parker before I put the Juice on the line and get his quarterback wide receiver combo. I'll tell you, I've fluctuated in my choice between Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr., who's playing against the Cowboys, who also like to give up a lot of points.
It's true.
That might be a little Homer-esque. But I've also looked at Matt Ryan Ridley. Ridley's another player that has an unbelievable floor and an unbelievable ceiling.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Well, I don't think that Ridley is on the main slate.
Oh, is he not on the main slate?
Well, maybe he is. No. I think he's the Monday night game.
Oh, correct.
So.
And this is where we're going to have issue because we're going to talk mostly about the main slate,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, Ray's league is Sunday, Monday.
Okay, yeah.
So
Yeah.
for the purposes of this, he is eligible.
What? Okay, so I do like Fitzpatrick and is it Parker that you guys are saying?
Yep.
I'm a little nervous on Parker. I'm going to admit, watching the Jacksonville game, which was 10 days ago, which is a great for him.
Here'd be my question though, guys. Who would you guys run it back with on the other side? Because there's a lot of pieces on Seattle, obviously, but I mean, do you think it's going to be? I'm assuming Chris Carson's out.
He is out 1 to 2 weeks.
So,
and I'll be honest, as being someone who is a Carson owner in season long, I don't have any idea if it's going to be Hyde or
I got no
Homer.
confidence
Yeah, I have
in
no
Carlos
confidence.
Hyde.
I'm not playing any Seattle running back.
I mean,
this week.
it wasn't like that Carson was like tearing it up to begin with.
He had a couple.
I mean, he was doing okay, but it's really been the Russell show so far this
Correct,
year, right?
yes.
I mean, that's
Right.
fair.
For the audience, Russell Wilson is the top producing DK players
Right.
thus far. And
I mean,
after 3 weeks.
he's been lighting it up. So, I mean, I'm just not a big Carlos Hyde guy as is.
I've
but
never-
I
never
don't.
I would agree.
So,
Master
I mean,
J,
I think you could run it back with a Lockett or a Metcalf and feel comfortable.
the problem with Seattle, and I know Lockett went off for 3 touchdowns, and it is that Metcalf is also capable of 3 catches.
That's right. Yeah.
And Metcalf, I think, has the better floor than Lockett, but I think Lockett probably has the higher ceiling.
I disagree. I think it's the complete opposite. I think Metcalf has the higher ceiling
And
and,
that's why we've
Lockett
been-
has the higher floor.
and the debate.
I think Lockett's more of a PPR guy. Like he'll get more catches.
Doesn't he come out of the slot pretty often?
Yeah. So I think he's a safer play.
Okay.
I mean, remember Metcalf? We were talking about it earlier. Like he basically screwed the pooch on a long touchdown last week.
I mean, if he didn't, that's what I'm saying.
I
If
mean,
he
it would
has
have
that
been, so
If he
I
hadn't-
think Metcalf, you can put him down for a touchdown each week right now until I see a terrible matchup or proof that they're not going to go towards him in the red zone, especially with Carson being out.
if Metcalf wouldn't have got that catch punched out of his hands last week, the Millionaire Maker would have been a Russell Wilson, Metcalf, and Lockett lineup that
Right.
won it all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. Probably running it back with a Michael Gallup.
Yep.
That probably would have been the combo right there.
Yes, I agree.
What I will say about Seattle
Probably
that I
with your
like,
some of Isabella Singletary work.
maybe. But I think what I like about Seattle more so than most other teams right now is that their receiver tree, it's basically Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So it's going to be one of the two guys blowing up, maybe 2 of the guys blowing up, but it's not like you're going to have 3 or 4 or 5 different receivers. They're going to be eating into each other's production, a la maybe like a Dallas, right?
Okay.
Because last week, Cedric Wilson. Who would have thought Cedric Wilson would have blown up, right?
So here's the moment in the show everybody's been waiting for. Who is the Juice's quarterback wide receiver combo of the week that he is going to try to sell me on to put into my lineup?
I like Deshaun Watson this week
Ooh,
a lot.
That's how he works, Jam Master J. Did you hear any Deshaun Watson before that came out of his mouth?
No,
right?
no,
Like
no.
Usually,
everyone's down on him this year.
usually I get that text about 2 minutes before kickoff. I'm going Deshaun Watson.
I mean, he's sleeping in his own bed this week in
So
Houston.
here's the problem. So here, as we talk Watson, since I have the final decision here, who are we going? Watson Cook or Watson Johnson?
I like Cooks, and I like. I mean,
We have to admit that Cook has a pretty low floor, right?
He does. I would go.
does.
I mean, Will Fuller.
Will Fuller, yeah. I mean, I
Neither-
think he's got a couple options there. What I do like about
My
Watson,
buddy Gardy, who also be a future guest on the show last year, plugged in a lineup that hit 270 that included Will Fuller in it. 270 before his tight end went off, I think.
Who was his tight end? Do you remember?
It was Kittle. And he had, depending on because we had it in Ray's league, which was Sunday, Monday, and then I put it in a $100 single entry that was just the main slate. I had to go off Kittle and put in somebody that didn't do as well. But the lineup blew up, and I think he had a 3-point score on it and still got 268 or 270. And that's Will Fuller there. Will Fuller is capable of 5 touchdowns. But I haven't seen much out of Will Fuller this year that makes me believe I want to stick him in my...
Well,
they've had a rough schedule the first couple weeks. Too.
He had an amazing week 1, and then a goose egg week 2,
right.
and then an average week 3. Before I forget this, on the Deshaun Watson play. So we talked about how Derrick Henry is usually the chalk, and last week was a week where you could play Derrick Henry, and surprisingly enough, he's guaranteed 25 touches almost every single week, and he was not chalk. So Deshaun Watson this week could actually be the should be chalk play that isn't. So I mean, I like the.
Okay, so Jared is moving over to. So he's pretty persuasive, isn't he, Jared?
So here's my other thing about Deshaun Watson. Why I like him is that we talked earlier. For some reason, the industry is really heavy on David Johnson this week.
I agree.
Really, really heavy. I think if we want to differentiate just a little bit, we don't play the running back in that game. We play the quarterback receiver.
What about Watson as a one-off? Since we don't love either receiver, I'm not in love with. I'm just going to tell you. Fuller
I would
or
normally
Cook.
say that, but I also like a lot of the corresponding plays on mini. I mean, you got Adam Thielen, who's. This is a 54.5 point
just
total.
for us novices, when you say mini, you mean Minneapolis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I was on the Dan Levin chart, that would that would definitely be going on the poll.
Well, I mean,
people who say mini.
Well, I'm saying no. I don't even know what I said, but I like Adam Thielen as a run back, and I also like that rookie out of LSU, Jefferson. I think he had 7 catches for 185 yards last week.
Yeah, like 30.
Okay, you're selling me. I think that this is a high-scoring affair.
I almost like him as an under-the-radar play this week.
Jefferson?
If Hopkins was still in Houston, we'd be firing this up. I can't. I got to be sold.
If Hopkins was still in Houston, what do you mean?
We'd be firing up Watson and Hopkins. I just can't seem to sell myself.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. DeAndre Hopkins, yeah.
But I'm going to go ahead with Fuller. Do you agree, Jam Master? We should try this with Watson and Fuller and see how it works out.
I mean, I don't really like playing Watson by himself. So, and Fuller's the dude that will just all of a sudden score 50 points. Maybe that's this week.
What about using a high-scoring game and taking the tight end option? A lot of people in the industry like the Houston tight end. There's 2 of them, Fells and Akins.
Akins, right? Yeah. Akins is the
But
other
Akins
one.
is a pretty consistent 7 to 10 points.
Last week, I think he had a rough week, but the weeks before that, Atkins had a solid target floor.
Do we want to pair him with a cheap tight end, or do we have a tight end play that we want to light up in this lineup?
I mean, let's wait for tight end. We could always come back. I think we'll have salary for him anyways.
I'm going to put Fuller in. Fuller, if we come back and decide we want to go cheaper.
Just for the record, though, I don't mind Fuller at all.
You want Cooks?
I do like Cooks.
Okay, I'm not going away from what the Juice wants. I mean, come on.
I think
this is the pivot featuring the Juice. I can't be.
I think he's working his way back, working his way into this lineup. I'm surprised at the amount of targets he's had the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
So
good news, we're recording the show, so if Cooks has a 0, I can.
Yeah, we can always edit it out, right?
I do like the fact that he's cheap.
No, he's
4,500 for a guy that used to be what, an 7,500?
7,000 average, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, well now I'm sold. 4,500. I'll get Cooks in there. He better. We're 1 long touchdown away from looking good. Okay, so where do we want to look next? Right now, so far we're rocking Watson, Kamara, and Cooks. We've spent 6,600, 8,000, 4,500, leaving us 5,100.
Can I say one more thing?
Of course, it's your show.
I really would like to run it back with. I'm sorry, just pulling up my stuff. Oh man, I can't believe I got to look this up. But
Who's
with
in your
Dalvin Cook?
Dalvin Cook?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What are we looking at potential ownership owner on Dalvin this week?
He's 11% owned.
He's always going to be on the upper
yeah.
end.
I think, Houston is just getting gashed in the running game. I also like the fact he catches some passes.
Correct.
So
Dalvin Cook, so far the last 3 weeks, target wise, he's had 5, 2, and 2.
Okay. So not
last year's numbers.
Not last year's numbers, but I'm thinking game script wise, I think they will be playing a little bit from behind. He's on the road, and I think he will get a couple more like dump offs.
I'm sold.
And the guy can just take it to the house any play. He's electric. So
with sticking them in there, that lowers our average player percentage. What we have left quite a bit. So
we haven't talked about tight end or defense.
Let's head that way so we can see what we have left.
I don't know about you guys, but I also like to build my lineups. Just stick my defense in first because it always raises my average per player.
Correct.
A lot more. Even tight end, I like to do that.
I'm with you on that. So let's go defense next.
Matt, real fast.
Sure.
Let us know what is in your lineup currently.
What is in our lineup currently is we have the Cooks Watson combo with the 2 running backs being Kamara and Cook.
Okay.
Did I say all the names right? Did I get the names right?
Yeah, you got it.
Right.
Okay. And we're on 4,600 salary average left, but we're about to plug in a defense here. If I know the juice, we're going to be looking at the lower end of the defense left.
I never like to play up for defense. I mean, like my feeling on defense, and you guys, give me your thoughts, but I think it's almost impossible to pick a pick six from a team.
I mean, every once in a while you get
special teams touchdown, and those are just aberration plays that happen.
Right.
Like New England last year came out of the gate scoring all kinds of fantasy points. There's been teams that score all kinds of fantasy points. This year, I have noticed right now, for instance, the Washington football team is sitting at 2,100. They average 6.7 points fantasy game, whereas plays that are up to 3,500. 3,600, 3,700,
4,000
average
Ravens.
Less points than they do.
That's true. But actually, last week the most expensive defense, which was the Colts,
Yeah.
was in the Millionaire Maker.
Yeah, I think there's good reason why the Colts were the most expensive team last week.
So as we do this week to week, I think the question we ask ourselves: is there a reason to spend up on defense this week? Jared first.
I'm looking at the top right now. We've got the Ravens and the Rams as the most expensive, and the Bills, which I don't really know why they're up there. They kind of suck this year.
I'm playing the Rams on a lot of season long, just by the way.
I don't think this is a week where you pay up to.
I would
defense.
agree. I'm gonna agree. Julio, convince me otherwise.
If I were to spend up, I would probably go the Rams, but I don't think I would spend up this week.
No, I don't think I would either.
Okay,
I mean,
so
although they are playing Daniel Jones,
Yes.
the Rams, and he has just been terrible.
And
this
Aaron
year.
Donald should just get a plethora of sacks that game. So if you've got the money to spend, like if that's your last team
I don't know that we're going to have the money to spend up. So let's talk about cheap defenses. The one that I have been using, I mentioned, is the Washington football team. The reason is I like Chase Young. I like the defensive line. They get some sacks. They are playing against the Ravens. They're not going to get. I don't think.
That's gonna be tough.
Well, their defense, if their line can handle that offensive line, then they might be able to keep him from running. I don't think Lamar Jackson's going to tear him up for 45 in the air, right?
Right.
So, any thoughts on a cheap defense, Jared?
I was looking at it, and I kind of like Houston. But I don't really know why.
I have to admit that Houston's been the cheap defense I've used over and over again. They sure haven't produced on the points side of things. What about Julio, Juice? What are we thinking? What's your pick?
I wouldn't mind either picking
it's funny that the defense is the hardest one every week, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's usually the most insignificant one, really, because again, if you're max entering
in a 45-person tournament, you can a 25-point defense can
right,
but
identifying who that 25-point defense is
like
rolling dice, kind of, in my opinion. I don't know. So this is kind of an off the radar play, but.
That's why you're the juice.
I think So Philly, they're in a
That's why this show's called
win
The
or
Pivot.
die situation, right? I mean, if they lose this week, they're done. They're toast.
with
They're playing
Mullen-
against San Francisco, who's really banged up. San Francisco have been putting up points, granted, but they've also had some weak opponents first couple weeks.
Jared,
so
what do you
I wouldn't
think?
mind punting with them. It's a low total too, I think.
They're 2,600.
let me check the total.
The Washington football team is 2,100. So that's a $500 buy up. Jared's defense was what? Remind me. The Texans, which
Texans,
is
yeah.
same price
Let me
range
look,
as the
though.
Eagles.
On the
I
flip
mean, I
side-
wouldn't touch Washington this week. They're playing.
Okay.
They're playing.
That's
Lamar
why you guys are
Jackson.
here.
Lamar Jackson is playing against Washington, and he's probably going to put up big numbers just because he's Lamar Jackson.
Oh, you know what? We can't even use that game because it's the Sunday night
We
game.
can in my league.
Yeah. No, we can.
We're doing-
Baltimore, Washington is noon on Sunday.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the Eagles 49ers game.
Okay.
In my league,
Oh,
we
my
can
bad.
use it. Again, we're going Sunday, Monday.
What are the Niners? What's their salary? Are they up there?
Let me look. I just plugged in your defense, and now I'm going to look on another. They're pretty up there, by the way. I think
I think they are.
they are the fifth highest, 3,700. That's too much. Sorry, Niners.
You know, this is probably a middle of the road. It's more than I typically like to spend, but you could just go right back to the Colts. They're playing Chicago.
Against Nick Foles.
People love Nick Foles. I'm not a Nick Foles guy. I don't know. I mean, I think they're probably middle of the road. It's a low total, so Vegas doesn't think a lot of points are going to be scored in that game. I think it's one of the lower totals on the slate.
Yep.
So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily mind the Colts.
I wouldn't either. They're relatively cheap for what
yeah.
they've been producing.
Yeah,
and Nick Foles is kind of you can't really predict what he's going to do. He's going to have great weeks and bad weeks against the top defense in the league this week. I would say.
And don't you think, Jared,
He's gonna suck.
that people don't like to go back to the well? Like if
Right.
like the Colts were the best defense last week,
Yeah.
he'll be like, oh, they can't do it 2 weeks in a row.
Right.
So maybe it's a little bit contrarian. You
So
know,
where are the Colts? How much are they look? Oh,
they're 3.3K, I
Yeah,
believe.
3.3K.
Yeah.
Not too expensive for a pretty,
Pretty
reliable.
safe, pretty safe defense.
So we're going to put the Colts in, and we're going to see what else we can build. If we need money later, we can talk about
we
pivoting
can-
back to the
right.
Eagles or whatnot. Okay, so let's go tight end. I think that's the next place where we generally save some money. I think this year there's no reason to buy up. I mean, I understand Kelsey. I understand Andrews a little bit. But, I mean, Andrews right now is averaging points per game a lot less than guys that are way cheaper than him or around the same as him. I have a tight end that I kind of fell in love with to start the week,
Okay.
and that was Schultz. He's playing at home against Cleveland. Cleveland's ranked 30th against the
I like
tight
Schultz.
end. He's 4,300. Jared, give me your tight end for this week.
I love Drew Sample. And the reason why I love Drew Sample is they're playing Jacksonville. Jacksonville's weak at tight end, and Joe
He's
Burrow.
cheap.
Joe Burrow loves throwing to tight ends,
Mm-hmm.
as we saw in week 2. And I don't think anyone's going to play him because he sucked last week. Sample scored 1.1 fantasy points, and he only had one target.
He let a lot of people down for
Yeah.
sure.
The targets scare me. The points don't scare me. It's they're throwing at him and there's incompletions.
Well-
they're throwing red zone targets.
He had 9 targets the week before that, and that was the week that they lost. I forgot his name, but the other tight end on Cincinnati right now. So
Heifert.
Sample is the tight end in Cincinnati right now. He's got talent, and no one's going to play him. So I mean, I love Sample. this week.
Eifert's not the other tight end.
Yeah, he's
No,
not.
he's where is he? I don't even remember where he's
Jacksonville.
at. Jacksonville.
It's some dude like Ethan Carter or something like that, I think.
It's Uzuma. CJ
oh,
Uzuma.
yeah.
What about Ali Cox? He's about the same price. Just talking about people in the same price range.
I like Ali Cox. Yeah.
Logan Thomas is popular in the industry.
I've been playing so much Logan Thomas this year, and he hasn't really killed you, but I'm just waiting for that touchdown to happen from that guy. He's getting
Right.
a lot of production. He's just not getting in the end zone.
He's
I'm
averaging 7 targets a game.
Yeah, I mean they're throwing to him, right? I mean
What about-
Haskins.
I'm
is
going to
looking
mention
for him.
another name, Jimmy Graham, that had a big week last week.
Well, Nick Foles loved throwing to to Jimmy Graham last week. I
Yeah.
mean, but he'll probably be highly owned. Well, I mean, you got the stats.
I think he'll
Do
be
you
the
have
most highly owned tight end.
Juice, do you have the stats on Jimmy Graham last week?
I can pull him up. I mean, I think he either got 1 or 2 touchdowns last week.
He got 2 touchdowns last week. I
think
just
he
don't
got
know
eight.
his
He had
targets.
24 points last week.
8 completions after Foles came in.
10 targets.
10 targets. Yeah,
10
10
targets.
targets.
8 and 8 of those came with Foles. Is my understanding.
Yeah. Once Foles came in the game, Jimmy Graham was relevant again.
Okay.
I mean, I think it goes well with our indie play too on defense because we're thinking that he's going to get a lot of short routes. They're not going to be able to air it out. It's going to be more methodical.
And we're talking again about who? This is
Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham. He's playing any. Okay.
I would say I like Sample, Jimmy Graham, or Logan Thomas. They're all about the same price range.
I'm going to go with Jimmy Graham. I think he'll
Okay.
be highly owned. I don't mind that.
I'm comfortable with that.
A highly
Yeah.
owned tight
Yeah.
end gives us a little bit of safety because if everybody else is playing him and if he ducks out, then we're not too
I
far
like
off.
it. I like it.
You good with that, Jared?
Yeah.
Okay, so just to give us an update, we're at Watson at quarterback. Our 2 running backs positions are filled with Delvin Cook and Alvin Kamara. Cooks is our receiving combination with Watson. Our tight end is Jimmy Graham, and our defense is the Colts, and we're left with 5,400. I think we should go next to the flex
We
spot.
got all the money in the world. We got receivers though that fill up though too.
I generally like to do. I like to do the flex because I like to do. I'm a 3 running back guy.
Okay.
Running backs are generally more expensive than the receivers
Yeah,
that we're going to be using.
typically.
And if there's a wide receiver that we want to use in the flex or tight end, please let me know. I'm a 3rd running back guy. There's a 3rd running back that I really like that I'm going to try to sell you guys on, and that is the rookie out of Southern Illinois that is playing for Jacksonville, and his name is
James Robinson.
James Robinson.
Yep.
The other running back that I would like in the slot is Mike Davis. Mike Davis is doing a lot of the same things that Christian McCaffrey did in that spot.
How expensive is Mike Davis this week?
That's a good question.
He's 5'7", 5.7.
Okay.
He's 5'7". We've got Singletary.
James Robinson's a little too expensive for my taste.
Singletary is 5,900. He's as a pivot. He's going against the worst rushing defense, and he is the only running back really truly on the roster that's getting any substantial action. Kenyon Drake is at 6,000. Is playing against.
I just feel like I go to him every week and he doesn't do anything.
No, I'm not. I'll probably go through this entire season not playing any.
I'm with you, man. I'm not on that guy. Like I think we've seen it already. Like when they're in the red zone, I mean, the safest play is just give it to Kyler and let him figure it out, man.
Right.
I mean, like I'd much rather have him running it in than Kenyon Drake.
Okay, well, let's move off of Drake. The other name that I've heard a lot, and what a great price on him, 6,400, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the rookie out of LSU.
I love him.
Kansas City's, he's been getting about 20 touches per game. He had one bad game where he scored, about 8 points, 7.7, I think.
DraftKings-wise, his worst week was 13 points.
Okay, wow. To me, that seems really safe. New England is a tough D, but they're not the same D they were last year. They got a lot of guys hurt. The problem with him is he's the exact same price almost as Robinson. Which one who do you guys like?
Well,
I got another one though we haven't talked about.
sure. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Daryl Henderson, the
I do like
Rams
Darrell
against
Henderson Jr.
the Giants.
Yes, the Giants love to give up. Last year, one of the Millie Makers, I think at 1.3 of the Millie Makers were filled with people playing the Giants. Is that a stat that you guys recall? Or it's one that I just made up? Anyway, I think we got a lot of tough choices here.
Yeah, we do.
Henderson, Davis, Singletary, Robinson are kind of where I'm falling. Is there any other name we should add to that list before we choose who we like the best?
I mean, I think Chubb and Kareem Hunter in good spots, but
There's actually
they're kind of expensive.
something came out today
sorry, Jared.
on I can't remember his name right now. The Kansas City. He used to run for Kansas City.
Edwards-Helaire?
No. He used to. Gosh, I can't remember his name right now. Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
He's dealing with some kind of injury this week. So if it comes out that he is not actually going to play this week,
Lock in Chubb.
lock in Chubb.
Yeah, lock in
I
Chubb.
kind of decided at the beginning of the year that I was going to miss out on the big Chubb games because I just couldn't tolerate playing Chubb and watching Hunt blow up for 30 points.
I know, but he's been solid this year.
He's been solid.
He's
I played him last week on a couple lineups and he did really well.
So how expensive? Chubb is a little more than I thought we would be spending.
that gave me some pause. I saw his salaries at $7,000, so that's a little high for me, but
It's going to leave us a little hurt.
Chubb doesn't suck at receptions. It's just that Kareem Hunt is better.
Yeah.
And if Kareem Hunt's out of the picture, then Chubb's going to get some receptions as well this week.
so I think we all can agree that if Kareem Hunt's out,
Then maybe
we're
good
really
Chubb.
high on Chubb.
So for the purpose of this, let's spend a little less on the flex. If Kareem Hunt is determined to be out, I will consider pivoting from the running back we choose to Chubb and then going a little bit less on receiver.
Did we plug in Myles Gaskin or no? We talked about him
we
earlier.
went-
No,
we-
pretty
he's another
contrarian
one.
play.
We went we went the other way. Oh, Gaskin is somebody else that we could be considering at this flex spot.
He's really cheap too.
I'm
Yeah.
just nervous about the touchdowns for some reason. He hasn't seemed to get in the end zone.
Right. Right.
Whereas I truly believe Henderson Jr. will score a touchdown this week. I believe Mike Davis will have over 5 catches this week. I believe Singletary
Easy.
will score a touchdown and have over 5 catches this week.
Yeah.
I think Chubb will have a touchdown, if not 2. So, okay, Jared, give me your pick at flex spot. I think we all agree we're going to go running back. Who's your lower end running back that we're going to stick in the flex, and it will pivot to Chubb if we need to.
Your average salary right now is 5,600. Is that
54.
right? 5,400. Under 5,400. Let me see here.
Under 5,400, like
I don't know that we need to go
Limits
under
us a
50.
lot.
Yeah, no, don't go under 5,400 because I'd rather save some money on a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Look, out of the kind of the guys we discuss, unless there's somebody that we haven't discussed that you want to throw in here, who are you thinking?
Probably Henderson Jr.
I like Henderson Jr. a lot too. I just think he's guaranteed a touchdown. I really
Yeah.
do. I think
I do too. I mean, and
I
the
don't think
Rams
he'll
are
be-
they're playing at a fast pace. They're going to speed the game up a little bit.
There's some talk about Akers coming back, but even when Akers was back, I have heard that the plan was for this to be Henderson's year for most of the year, and then maybe Akers at the end of the year taking over a little bit more of the primary carry share.
Everything I've read is that Akers and Henderson, like talent wise, are just beasts. And
Yes.
I think from what they've been saying is that he's kind of won the job until he loses it right now. I
Okay.
mean, he's just
I agree.
blowing up. I mean,
Henderson Jr. is in our flex spot. We have 5,200 left average, 10,400 for 2 guys. Both of these guys will be wide receivers. Let's start here. There's 2 ways we can play this with 2 wide receiver spots left. Pretty obvious. We can go high on one, low on the other, or we can try to just middle grade both of them. The receivers, just to discuss receivers, Hopkins, who is the highest, most expensive receiver, is banged up a little bit.
He's questionable.
Adams is also questionable, who's the second highest. And then Mike Thomas, who's the third highest, is also questionable. So the first healthy guaranteed receiver is Ridley, who is having a phenomenal year. Didn't get in the end zone last week. If he did get in the end zone last week, he'd be over 30 points per game average.
yeah.
Julio Jones has been banged up. The other expensive guys, and when I say expensive, 6,900, 7,000, 6,800, 6,800, that's 6,700. There's a lot of guys in the 6,700 range. That's not too expensive. I think if we go with one of those guys, it's going to leave us enough. Do you agree, or do we should?
I'm going to talk about Julio because that's my name.
Okay.
I'm not going to play Julio till he blows up.
Well-
I mean, to me,
Before the injury, this is what I had heard preseason was we were drafting season longs. I read an article that said in the the limited camp they had, Ridley looked like a third-year receiver ready to break out.
he's the alpha.
Right.
In my opinion, he's the alpha.
And
right
Julio Jones looked like an overaged veteran who's got fat pockets and is not going to do anything to hurt himself.
Yeah,
That's what I read.
I mean, I just see what I see on the field, and it looks like it's Ridley's receiving
Ridley was
core.
amazing in college.
Yeah, I mean they're both
literally
Alabama
amazing.
guys. I mean, like,
Ridley is Julio Jones, just what,
a younger
6 years,
version.
7
Yeah,
years younger?
yeah.
So, yes, Julio Jones is off the list of players that he is not.
I mean,
gonna
I'll just wait till I see that he's got it going again.
I don't think that's going to happen. Unfortunately,
May not.
Basically,
May not.
Ridley's going to be a safe play with a lot of upside.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think a name that I kind of want, a couple names I want to talk about. There's a whole group, again, like the running back. There's a group of receivers here that I really like. All of them. You guys are going to have to help me pick out Lockett, Hill, Metcalf, Diggs, Robinson, Cooper, Kupp, Tian, Allen, and Evans are all Woods.
I think you need to throw CD Lamb in there.
And CD Lamb, they're almost, well, CD's a little cheaper. These guys, the guys I named first, are all right at 65 to 6,800.
Okay.
If I love CD Lamb, he's one of my top 3 favorite players in the NFL currently. It's not going to be hard pressed for me to be talked into paying what his price, because it's not too bad.
No.
I would say, who we think is going to be high owned? I think Mike Evans is going to be high owned with Godwin being ruled out.
Not
you don't
really.
think so?
I mean, so the projected highest owned receiver this week is DJ Moore for Carolina, at 18%. So next highest is DeAndre Hopkins.
DJ Moore doesn't
Lockett.
make much sense to me.
They're playing Arizona, Carolina. It's high scoring, so I don't know.
Yeah. What stats I'm looking that I'm showing is that Hopkins and Metcalf, Slayton, interesting name. Slayton's somebody that I tried to get in the lineup last week that I ended up pivoting off of because I felt like he was going to be a pretty common play. He when he's hot, he's hot.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I agree.
I don't know that I love the Giants. Something that, a friend of mine, friend of both Julio and I, Toby always talks about, Toby Biocchini, another future guest on the show, season-long draft strategy expert. Now I forgot who I was talking about.
Slayton
Always reminds me to look at, implied totals. The Giants, I don't think are necessarily a high implied total this week, correct?
No,
I really like wide receivers off high implied total teams.
not a high implied total, but Slayton has a consistent target share every single week, and all he really needs is one big play. And they've lost.
That was my Claypool thought last week. I just need one big reception.
Right.
It never happened.
They lost their running back. What's his name? Help me out. Out for the year. Giants.
Barkley.
Saquon, yeah.
Saquon Barkley. So if the Giants want to be relatively even competitive this week, they're probably going to need some big plays.
Yeah.
And Slayton will probably be the beneficiary there.
Okay.
So
I'm going to how we're going to do this last pick is I'm going to have you guys pick me 2 wide receivers. I need a combo. I need I want, whether you guys want to go high, low, if you want to go 2 middling guys, if you want me to squeeze them in to see if they fit. But we got 10,400, 5,200 each. You guys are brilliant at math. Mike Evans is playing against what is the top-rated pass defense in the league, and Jalen Ramsey is probably going to be shadowing him the whole game. I'm guessing that's why the ownership is lower than what I thought it would be. Is that correct, Julio?
Yeah, I mean, and interesting enough that just ain't that same game. A guy I was going to kind of mention was Keenan Allen, who we haven't talked about. I think he had 19 targets last week.
Yep.
But the line is 43, the total. Like that's
and his implied I think
that's so low.
Tampa Bay to me is a dark horse, really good defense.
Well,
they get a lot of sacks, a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They have good defensive backs.
One of the analysts, it was either on Fox or CBS, was saying that in his opinion that Tampa Bay would be the best defense by the end of the season.
Agreed. My season-long drafting would also agree with you.
So he was saying they're not there yet, but he says that they're young and they're just going to get better each week.
Sid Barrett may be the best defensive player in the league that nobody's heard of.
I really like Allen moving forward, but I think this week is probably not the week to play him.
Okay, Jared, I hear you back there calculating. You got 2 for me, or are you going to go talk about one?
You said the average is 5,200 per spot.
Yep.
Just looking over this based off of players that we've talked about, and I mean, what I personally like, it'd be CeeDee Lamb and Slayton.
Ooh, okay. I like it. What about you, Julio? So you're taking kind of more of a middle range approach. You're not buying up and then paying down, right?
No, yeah, I'm trying to win the Millionaire Maker right now.
Quick. We just want to win Raise League. But
I got too much money in the bank.
Yeah, Raise League would work, but Millionaire Maker is nice too. I'm going to talk about how much we're good on time, I think, right, guys?
We got about 10 minutes.
Okay. Couple good wide receivers that I want to just mention. Lazard had a monster game coming off the injury to the usual monster receiver of Adams at Green Bay. Green Bay is playing what I consider to be a pretty horrendous defense at home. Is Lazard a guy that we should be talking about?
Maybe.
Yeah, is
Again,
Devontae
he's not on the
Adams-
main slate. I understand, guys. This is Ray League oriented here. He's somebody that we can play because he's a Monday night game, and it would be our late night hammer, maybe, right?
I haven't checked. What is being said about Devontae Adams this week? Do you guys know?
I don't have the latest update on Devontae Adams. Have you heard of?
I haven't heard anything yet.
I-
I'm assuming he's playing.
Okay,
You think
so
he's
then
playing?
if he's
Yeah.
playing, I'm going to definitely wipe Lazard off the list.
Yeah,
of
I
people
wouldn't.
would
I wouldn't
consider.
touch him if Devontae Adams is
Okay,
back.
let me ask you a couple other names of guys I just like. We consider Will Fuller double stacking.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Terry McLaren. He hasn't had. He's had. I mean, he just gets out there and gets 15 to 20. Now he again low implied total for the week.
Right.
Beckham Jr. Maybe has a higher implied total. Dallas's defense is currently second to worst against DOA against wide receivers, and then we always have Devontae Parker. There's a lot of good receivers.
I like Devontae Parker this week a lot. And
Anderson, Robbie Anderson, a guy from Temple.
What's Parker's salary?
56, I believe. 57.
I mean, could we fit in? I don't think we could. Gallup and Parker,
I think we could actually.
or Lamb.
Are we
I know
chasing-
we
I mean,
could, I know we could fit in Lamb.
I think Lamb will actually end up having a better week than
I
Gallup
agree
this
with.
week.
I think we might be chasing with Gallup.
Yep.
CD's 54.
Parker's pretty nice. He's 5,700.
Yeah, we can't get them both in, unfortunately. We could
Yeah.
get Slayton in. Another guy that had an interesting week last week is the rookie wide receiver out of Arizona State for San Francisco. I'm not even going to try that last name.
Isabella.
Ayuk
Oh, Brandon Ayuk. Yeah,
for San Francisco. Did I say Arizona? San
yeah,
Francisco.
Yeah.
He ended up having a rushing
Yeah.
touchdown and ended up having 4 rushing.
They're really high on him up in San Francisco for sure.
Right. Other receivers that are a little bit cheaper. Okay, so can't do Lamb and who was the other one we were trying to fit Lamb with?
Slayton is what I said.
So you said Slayton Lamb, and
Yep.
you said look at you seem to like Lamb too, right?
Yeah, I like Lamb. I'm always good with Lamb. I mean, I think we've seen him for years. He's just a talented wide receiver.
Definitely staying away from Hollywood this week. Robert Woods is a guy we haven't talked about. He's playing against that terrible, but we got Henderson Jr. We're
Yeah.
hoping that's where the touchdowns
Yeah.
go.
Yep.
Man, Will Fuller is looking more tempting when
What about Odell Beckham?
I like Odell Beckham a lot. Mainly
in my
because,
original build.
I like Odell Beckham a lot, and the reason why I think that he's going to have a good week is because they're playing Dallas. It's probably going to be relatively high scoring, and they're not going to be able to give the ball to the running backs. About we just talked about Chubb earlier. If Kareem Hunt is out, Chubb's going to get the reception, so he's still a good play in that scenario.
Yeah.
The problem with him is he leaves us in the lower range. He leaves us 4,600. We're looking at Tate, Renfro, Bourne, Isabella, Williams, Cole, Higgins.
T. Higgins is a guy I like
I mean,
too.
if we want to go Higgins, Odell Beckham Jr. The problem with Odell Beckham Jr. is obviously he has a floor that is low.
So you could
You also have Preston Williams.
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say you could go Odell Beckham and then go Preston Williams.
So you guys really like Beckham Jr. I put him in my original lineup, and then I was like, oh,
I think he's got a really good salary this week, and
Good salary.
we've
good
seen Dallas
matchup.
isn't going to stop anybody.
Yeah.
You know, so
And
I mean,
not many people are probably going to want to play Odell Beckham, especially since
No.
he came out and said that he understands Cleveland's best assets is their best asset is the running game, and he doesn't expect to put up big numbers this year.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to remind you guys at this point, since we're talking money, we spend up on defense. Do you want to try a couple wide receivers when spinning down on defense?
I mean, I like the Colts.
You like to call? I do. Too.
I do like the Colts, but I'm always down for spending down on
You are.
defense. So either way,
Let's
I
go
mean,
check out
either
the
way.
Eagles. We said we were going to do it. We got a few more minutes, so let's go look at the Eagles real quick in the lineup and see what it opens up in the. Is that okay, Jared? We good with that?
Yep.
I do like the Colts, and I'm leaning towards just going for the first time. The one thing about them playing Chicago is Foles plays such a conservative style offense that I don't think there's going to be a lot of turnovers. Where if it was Trubinsky, I would be very, very excited.
All over it. The Colts would be more expensive if it was
Correct.
Trubisky's.
Okay, so I'm putting the Eagles in, and I'm going to wipe out Williams and Beckham Jr. Now we're dealing with 5,500 apiece. knowing that, Jared, what are we thinking? Tyreek Hill in a lineup wouldn't be bad, but New England's pass defense is not good.
So you're trying to fill 2 wide receiver slots, right?
Again, and this time we have 5,500. So if you want to go down to that lower range, you can definitely spend up on a Cooper, a Kupp, Allen, Mike Evans type of, Robert Woods type of play. Again,
What about like a Kenny Galladay?
You know, I seem to never make Kenny Galladay in my lineup, and he always seems to do really well.
But I mean, he's going against New Orleans, and I think their secondary okay. Pretty good, actually.
Yeah, let's stay away from Galladay. He came back with a good game. Detroit's a team that it makes me nervous.
Mm-hmm.
I still like CeeDee Lamb in that scenario.
Okay.
What about DJ Chark? Could this be a DJ Chark week?
He's
still banged up, I think.
Still banged up.
Is he?
yeah.
Because it shows that he's. Let's see what they say about
I think I'm going to have to see a good game out of DJ
Yeah,
Shark before. I mean,
that's
especially when Keenan Allen's sitting there with 19 targets. Do we want to look at Keenan Allen? Tampa Bay just has such a good defense. I don't think he's going to get 19 targets.
I don't want to pick on Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I don't either.
But
okay, I'm putting CeeDee Lamb in. Both you guys seem to like Lamb. That leaves us 5,700, which will get Devontae Parker in.
we could do the double stack of
There you
Fuller
go.
and then Devontae Parker.
Fuller Parker?
Yeah,
Will Fuller Parker work, do we
I
think?
think so.
I like Fuller Parker.
I do kind of like Fuller Parker. Let's see.
I don't know if it works, actually.
I'm going to try it. Don't worry.
Because he said 55. I don't think we don't have it.
We can do Fuller Jefferson, Fuller Landry, Fuller Brown. No, I don't. Or Fuller Slayton.
Some week Landry's gonna have a good week. Maybe it's this one. They are playing Dallas. Dallas is not great at defending the pass. So I don't know. I mean, it's a dart throw.
I kind of like CeeDee Lamb Parker. I mean, the industry definitely likes CeeDee Lamb Parker.
Okay.
Julio?
I'm good with it. I'm good with it. I
We
mean,
spent all our money.
I'm always going to be up for CeeDee Lamb.
So here's the
Yep.
question: do we like CeeDee Lamb Parker Eagles defense, or do we like Colts CeeDee Lamb? What was it, Slayton? That we ended up with.
There's upside to both. That's hard to pick between. But I mean,
I kind of like spinning down on the defense a little more.
well, if you like that, then I like that lineup better.
Yeah.
because
Okay.
I like the Eagles less than the Colts, but I like the wide receivers when the Eagles are in your lineup
Okay.
much better.
Well, I'm excited. Our first lineup we've come up with. Watson at quarterback 6,600, Delvin Cook at running back 7,600 on DK, Alvin Kamara 8,000, Brandon Cooks 4,500. That's a great price for Cooks.
It is.
CeeDee Lamb 5,400, Del Parker 5,700, Graham 3,800, Henderson Jr., which I think is a great start, 5,800, and the Eagles D. I'm going to lock it in.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
Good lineup, guys. Good. That's a good. I'm happy with it. And we'll see.
Good first lineup for the.
I don't think we have a social media presence yet for us to get made fun of yet. But when
That's
we will,
probably a good thing.
when we do, it will be nice to see some people's lineups or some opinions on the lineup. How much time we got left there, Jam Master J?
About 2 minutes.
Okay, so quickly, my other passion besides NFL fantasy is college football fantasy. Last week, Mississippi State went into the defending national champion LSU and literally had 4 players just torch fantasy.
Mike Leach, the Pirate, strikes again, man.
Mike Leach has said that if he could be in the SEC, that those defenses wouldn't be considered as good as they are.
Week 1
and I think week 1 shows you. There's 12. Just quickly, I'm going to open up my college football lineup that I have upcoming and just see it because I want us to focus a little bit on college football. Pitts from Florida, the tight end who had 4 touchdowns, I think he's around 7,000. It's hard not to play him. If you want to play the 2-play Friday night game, there's BYU is playing. You can play both their running backs. Both their running backs are averaging over 22 points a game.
Wow.
That's just quickly. Okay, before we leave, let's talk about outside of my lineup. What's your favorite low dollar play? What's your favorite value play? Pick quarterback, wide receiver, running back. I'll give you any spot. When you're making your lineups this week, Julio, I know you got a lot of more information between now and Sunday before you finalize what you're going to do. give the listeners just one good value play.
Man, I think
Other than the ones we use, of course.
so talking through this, I kind of like Baker Mayfield at quarterback.
That's hilarious. That's who I had in my original build.
Yeah, he's really, really cheap. The only thing, and this is just, again, small sample, one thing I've been trying to do with my quarterbacks this year is trying to roster guys who can both pass and run. Mm-hmm. And I think that's been a trend I've been seeing. I don't think he gets a lot of rushes anymore. So, he's more of a drop back guy. He gets flushed out a little bit, but that's why I was kind of high on Watson. I just like quarterbacks that like to run because they can get there both different ways. But he's really cheap. And they've just shown they are just a bad defense.
I like Baker. I think a Cleveland stack against Dallas isn't terrible. And just starting.
Maybe not terrible this week. I just can't play Baker Mayfield. So let me throw some stats out there. The last 2 weeks, Baker Mayfield has scored 16.3 and 14.3 with 23 attempts each week.
Yeah,
that's why it's not in the lineup.
Week 1, he had 39 attempts. And he scored 10 points. And that's because he does not do well under pressure.
Yeah.
Okay. Who is Jared's value play of the week?
We talked about him a little bit, but going through the quarterbacks, Fitzpatrick is super cheap, and he has a ton of upside.
And you're saying pair him with Parker.
I'm saying pair him with Parker, contrarian play, pair him with Gaskins.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me an NFL game that is going to score all the points. If you're playing multi lineups and you're going to be stacking, who are we going to stack? Combinations
Seattle,
of?
Miami, easy.
I agree.
You
love that Houston.
We're going Vikings, Texas, baby. Yeah. That's where our lineup's based on.
I think those are both two high scoring games.
Yeah,
again, we have 7 games over 50. So just as we finish out, who are some of the other the combination lineups that are likely to go off? Give me a couple of the games that we think are just going to have some huge totals, implied team totals and full game total.
Probably Jacksonville, Cincinnati will probably be relatively.
That's a good sneaky high scoring game. Jacksonville let us down on the super high scoring Miami Jacksonville game. I thought we were going to get on Thursday night, but they are playing some guys like Robinson and guys that their receivers are just getting used to things. They're a team that could blow up for 35 points in a game. It was Cincinnati coming back and scoring 30, right? So,
yeah.
Any other one?
Another one that we really didn't talk too much about is maybe the Bills Raiders. Okay. I think the Bills are one of the highest paced teams in the league this year.
I agree.
So they're running a lot of plays. The Raiders defense hasn't really shown me anything so far this year. Neither has Buffalo's for that matter. So I don't know. That's kind of a sneaky game.
Did Detroit have a high scoring one too? Who's Detroit playing? Is
that New Orleans Saints? I kind of think that's going to go a little bit under.
Okay. What about Arizona, who's another high-scoring team?
I kind of think it's going to go under too.
Okay. So we're going to
especially if Hopkins is out.
Let's transition to finish off. Let's give. I'll let you. We'll stick to the NFL since we didn't talk as much about college as we will in the future when we're getting a little more efficient as this. What's your best bet? Give me how are you going to build a bookie another house?
I'm gonna pound the Browns Cowboys over, man. I just think that's been the lock so far this year.
Anybody playing the Cowboys just hit the over.
Just hit the over in that game.
Jared, anybody the fan should be betting on so we can help them get a little bit of weekend money?
I'm gonna go. I'm sorry, I've already said it. If you're betting over, it's Seattle, Miami. I don't know what the odds are there, but
it's a good one too. Seattle's been just as bad defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. By the way, I don't know that unders will ever be allowed to be bet on the show. If you bet unders, you hate life, and I'm probably likely not friends with you.
Yeah, if you bet unders, you like boring football.
Yes, and we play fantasy, so we don't want unders.
I know.
And so most bets, I think, at the final end of the show when we're trying to help you guys lose some money is that we're probably going to be focusing on overs.
I think though that Vegas, real quick, that there's so many games with high totals this week because there haven't been so far this year, and all these games have been shooting out.
I thought the totals came out like they've scored more touchdowns through week 3 than ever. Correct? Is that
something crazy. So Vegas has adjusted. So
true.
They've raised their totals lines a lot.
Well, I have to give credit. There were some podcasts early in the year that said defenses it would be hard for them to catch up based on the amount of practice and tackling and scheme.
We're seeing it for sure.
And now that we have injury added in, the teams are getting less and less deep, and I think we're going to see more and more scoring. I think we're going to have a fun year here with scoring. I don't know if it's like the NBA where the no fans kind of take some of the stress away, and you can hear audibles. Oh, wow. Calvin Ridley just downgraded to questionable.
Oof.
Wow.
Okay, start the show over.
Okay. Atlanta sitting with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Gage all hurt.
Oh, man.
Do we know a fourth receiver in Atlanta that we might be?
No idea. No idea.
Yeah, go figure out who Atlanta's fourth receiver is. Everybody will probably be playing him, and we'll stick with the lineup we have.
I guess some value just opened up.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so we got, what are we on? Thursday night? We don't have any NBA games tonight, right? We
Nope.
have
No.
First game of the finals was yesterday.
first game of the finals is over. We won't
So
talk.
mad the Lakers are going to win again.
So we have nothing tonight. Oh, we have, unless we want to count.
MLB.
We have Denver, New York.
Oh, and pour one out for the Titans game, right? It got
Right. Yep.
postponed.
Okay, so
Steelers,
COVID
Titans
strikes
game.
again.
Yep.
So
Postponed.
for
They're on
our
bye this
fans
week.
that just can't handle not playing Thursday night, who are we captaining tonight if we're captaining somebody in the Jets-Denver game? Let's play that one too. Who to captain?
Jerry Jeudy.
I like that pick. I'm going to go Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon's going to have 2 touchdowns tonight.
I'm going to go with whichever kicker you want to play from whichever team.
I think that's a great
Because
pick.
this game is going to be ugly, guys.
I just cut McManus off like every season-long team.
Listen, I'm a Denver fan, and the last 3 years have been incredibly painful.
Yeah. I mean, that's a proud franchise, man.
Luckily, you guys won enough championships in my lifetime to last you for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
Thursday night, anything else in this game?
The good news is that we might get a game Tuesday, that Titans game.
I mean, that's.
So
I think we should just permanently during the COVID season
Yeah,
always
just
have
every
a Tuesday
night have a game.
have a Tuesday night.
they
just
talked
spot
about
open.
having a doubleheader Monday night game, maybe a Tuesday game, but I think they might postpone
That
it later
Tuesday
on.
Wednesday transition is going to get tougher when we lose the NBA here. So I mean, if we want to have a Tuesday night game, I love it.
Can't wait for basketball to start back up, man.
I mean, it starts off in
year.
like 2 weeks.
Oh, it's gonna be a good year.
I think they're going to start at Christmas. But anyway, hey, we're going to clean this up, finish this off. Anyway, for those of you who are taking the time to listen to our first show, we promise that we'll be getting better. We'll get more efficient. I enjoy talking to these guys. We could probably talk for 2 hours, but I don't know that you guys would want that. Anyway, appreciate anyone who does choose to listen. We will get some social media. We'll try to see if we can get at the Pivot. If not, it'll be like Pivot featuring Juice, something that we can. That way you can ask questions. You can help us spur on some show topics in the
Post
future.
your lineups. Let us know
Yes,
how you
post,
do.
Yeah.
Plus, you post lineups, compare them. We will have Ray Henson on next week. We were supposed to have Ray on this week. Sorry, Ray, if you're listening. We really wanted to have you on, but we're again doing this live from my second bedroom. What my hand is on, I guess, a bed that I've never slept on that I think one of my old roommates left. And with a little table, we're going to get some more technology going. We're going to get guests starting next week. And
if you win the Millie Maker, you'll be splitting it with us fools.
Right.
All right.
I mean,
So
eventually this week.
it's all good. It's all
Once we
good.
win
I need
that
some
Millionaire
commission.
Maker.
If you win it, I need some commission there.
If we win it, I mean, we're going to have some fancy equipment in this
yeah.
little bedroom here.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen real quick.
You could be a guest host. How about that if you win the Millie Maker?
Yes. Anybody who wins the Millionaire Maker who's listening to the show wants to be on, I promise we'll find you 10 or 15 minutes of airtime.
Maybe more.
Maybe even more. We might even let you just do the show from here on out. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it and look forward to each week. I think we're planning on being back next Thursday.
Yeah.
We've got to look at the
Thursday
law
every
schedule.
week. Yep.
We're planning on trying to get it recorded Thursday afternoon every week. And we'll get you some social media so you can give us some feedback. And I think we're out. Hopefully the Beastie Boys will be playing shortly, starting now.
Peace out.
See ya.